The Cardinals Daily Report is brought to you by the Arizona Lottery. You can't win if you don't play.
Well, the Cardinals are going to Oakland this weekend to play the Raiders, and there's a lot of former Oakland Raiders on this team right now, Kyle. There's Carson Palmer, obviously the quarterback. You've got Tommy Kelly, the defensive lineman, Matt Shaughnessy, who's injured right now, the linebacker who came from Oakland as a free agent a couple years ago, but none of them are as recent of Raiders as Jared Veldheer. He's going back, the left tackle, kind of left under interesting circumstances. There was a lot of people that thought he was going to stay in Oakland, decided to come to Arizona as a free agent, and I think this is going to be a big deal to him.
Sure, and General Manager Steve Keim thought that they were going to franchise tag Veldheer during the offseason, and Oakland didn't, and he jumped on it and signed him to that 5-year deal. And Jared was saying this week that he was excited to go back. He was excited to play in the Coliseum again. This game has been circled on his calendar since the schedule came out. But then he said he was looking at some tape and looking at the depth chart, and a lot of guys are already gone because they've undergone so many changes. And you look at the guys he's blocking, they have 4 main pass rushers, and they're all new. So it's interesting where he's going to know some people, but maybe not as many as you'd expect.
You know, it's funny because Larry Fitzgerald was saying in terms of Carson Palmer, who's obviously now been gone from the Raiders for a little over a season for the April 2013 trade that he came to the Cardinals, that, you know what, he thinks that this game is going to be a little bit bigger to Carson than maybe he's letting on, going back playing a team that he obviously just played for and left again under interesting circumstances. They wanted him to take a pay cut for a second straight year. Carson said he'd rather not, and they moved on to a younger quarterback. And I think the story right now about Carson Palmer is less about going back to Oakland right now and more about where Carson is as a player. He played well last week in a victory against Washington, and there's a possibility that he's going to get a contract extension. I don't think there's any question that he wants to stick around. I think the Cardinals want him to stick around, and I think it's just a question of coming up with a number that works in a lot of ways. And I think having that quarterback stability for this team has made a really big deal to it, because obviously for those few years where the Cardinals didn't know exactly who their quarterback should be or didn't have one that was going to lead them to the wins that they wanted to, having a guy like Carson makes a huge difference in that locker room.
Yeah, you're clearly in win now mode, and Carson, maybe he's not an elite quarterback, but he's a good quarterback, and you just saw when he came back kind of the stability he brought to the offense, even though he wasn't 100% and maybe he wasn't doing everything. He said he was a little rusty, but when he's going well, you have a top defense. It's just nice to have a stable presence at quarterback. You don't worry about what you're going to get. He's very consistent, so yeah, I think he's going to be here for a few more years as well.
There's no question that going into Oakland this weekend with a chance to go 5-1, knowing who your quarterback is and having him play at a high level means a lot to this team, and I think it will mean a lot going forward. So for Kyle Odegard, I'm Darren Urban. This has been another edition of Cardinals Daily on EasyCardinals.com.